Everybody, we're going to start in just about a minute. Bob? Thank you, everybody, and welcome to the first regularly monthly meeting of the Mayor and Council being held in Borough Hall Monday, November 14th, 2022, starting at 6:30. Missy, could you please read the roll?
Mayor Nunziato.
Here.
Councilman Goldsack.
Here.
Councilman Leahy.
Here.
Councilman Coakley.
Here.
Councilman McGowan.
Present.
Councilman Big Roberson.
Here.
Councilman Guzman.
Here.
Thank you. If you're willing and able, could you please stand for the salute to the flag? Thank you, everyone. Missy, could you please read the provisions?
In compliance with the Open Public Meetings Law, Chapter 231, Public Laws of 1975, notice of this meeting was transmitted to the Record and Herald News and filed with the Borough Clerk on December 13th, 30th, 2021, and is posted on the bulletin board outside of Borough Hall.
Thank you, Missy. We'll now have the Borough Engineers Report. Brian?
Thank you, Mayor. We just wrapped up Tamlin Field, new basketball courts, hoops, backboards, surface is done, upgrade the fencing, and the pickleball courts are also finished, 5 courts and a reservation area as well. And we accepted that on our end on Friday, and it seems to be in fairly good shape. And the paving project is proceeding forward. We're going to get confirmation whether they're going to mill certain streets the week of Thanksgiving. I'm hesitant, but I don't want to lose the schedule, and I'll let the mayor and council know as soon as we get confirmation on that. And the other project is the Transit Village work. The borough architect is working diligently to move that and advance that project. That's what I have for you, Mayor.
Thank you. Any questions from the council to the Borough Engineer? Seeing none, thank you for your work, Brian. I'm sorry about what happened down Tamlin Field with the gate being broken and you guys having to do extra work. I do appreciate your efforts.
That's okay, thanks.
Thank you. Seeing that we have no presentations, Missy, can we go to the changes to the agenda?
Yes, we'll be adding an item on page 3 under the police agenda. It'll be item A, authorization to call for a civil service certification list for police captain, police lieutenant, and police sergeants. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Missy. Anybody else from the council have any changes? Councilman? Or
Thank you,
Council
Mayor.
President, I'm sorry.
As you know, I was away this past week. Upon my return, I had conversations with some of my colleagues and some of our professionals regarding the specifics surrounding some of the items contained in the agreements related to the Williams Center redevelopment plan. Until those questions are answered to my satisfaction, I'd like to remove all items related to the Williams Center redevelopment from the agenda tonight.
Thank you. I'm sorry, folks, could you, thank you.
Can we just confirm, so that'll be removing resolution number 211 under President of the Council, and the ordinances? Under Planning Board, item A on first read, and 2 of the ordinances under Council President under reading, second read, item A and B.
That's correct. Four in total.
Thank you. Anybody else on the council? Seeing none, I'd ask for a vote on Council President.
Motion.
Motion by Council President. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Lay. Any questions or comments by the council? Seeing none, may I have a roll call?
Councilman Goldsack?
Yes.
Councilman Leahy?
Yes.
Councilman Coakley?
Yes.
Councilman McGowan?
Yes.
Councilman Big Roberson?
Yes.
Councilman Guzman?
Yes.
Thank you. We're now going to go to the hearing of citizens. Please state your name, address, and keep your comments to 5 minutes or less, please. Anybody wishing to come forward, please do so at this time.
Hi, my name is Lois DiTomaso. I was here at the last meeting to talk about the planes
Excuse
and
me,
the
can you
noise
just
from
say your
Teterboro
address?
Airport.
We just need your address, Ms. DiTomaso.
My address is 180 Mountain Way. And I've spoken to my neighbor, who I know went to the TANAC meeting, and he said noise monitors would be installed in his yard at least, and I don't know where else. But I would sure like an update on what's happened, if anything, since then with the noise problems. When I was here last time, I had 11 signatures on a letter that we sent to you. That letter now has 36 signatures, only because I take it with me when I go out for a walk. If I see people, I ask them if they want to sign it, and everybody thanks me for trying to do something about the noise. I have an update on it in this. I'm going to give this back to you so you can give it to everybody. But in it are a couple of pictures. One is of a plane, one of the planes that was landing. We just printed it off the website so you can see the size of it. Another piece that's in here is, there's two of these. These are screenshots circled showing the planes lined up waiting to land, so that you can see that they are landing every 90 seconds over our homes. And we just ask that you please do whatever you can to get these planes to use a different approach. None of us see any reason why they can't use the Route 17 approach, which is less than a quarter of a mile east. They wouldn't be flying over anybody's house. And we wouldn't have the noise and the constant every 90 seconds. Look up and there it is. You can reach up and touch it. It's so low because those planes are 500 feet. The other thing I just want to add is that a couple of people have asked me about emissions from the planes and whether there's any measurement of that. People have said that the exhaust from the planes releases soot, and a couple of people have complained about needing to get their homes painted more frequently because of the exhaust from the planes that fly over so low and so frequently. So I would love to get an update from you. I did send you an email, but I didn't get a response, so that's why I'm here. Anyway, I would appreciate anything you can do, and I just want to reinforce that. And I'm going to give this to the clerk.
Yes, if you give it to the clerk, she'll
And
disseminate it amongst us all, and we can answer you after we go to the public session.
I know that the next TANAC meeting isn't until January, but I'm hoping I'll be able to attend that one, and some of my neighbors will as well.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else from the public wishing to speak? Please state your name and address, and keep your comments to 5 minutes or less, please.
I'm Dan Olivo, 202 Belford. So good evening. I'm here to talk about the Williams Center and the events of this past week and what I perceive as misunderstandings about the nature of this space and how these misunderstandings play out in modern discourse. I also want to acknowledge that I speak for myself and not for anyone else who may be related to me in this room, including members of Native Development. I've been involved in events at the Williams Center since last March. I've worked mainly as a DJ, video artist, and helping with AV duties. In that space, my immediate family and I have met so many new people that we wouldn't have, and I truly appreciated that aspect of what Native Development has done there. I've been able to experience how the community around me engages in creativity, poetry, music, comedy, and spoken word, which in turn has made me feel more connected to them. I have performed there because I love music and art, but more so, I love music and art because of its power to bring people together and to heal. I currently entertain the belief that avant-garde filmmaker Alejandro Jodorowsky, no stranger to controversy, espouses, an art that does not heal is not an art. After the isolation of COVID, I felt closer to healed with each performance at the Williams Center, and I know for people who have seen me, I'm a bit stiff and focused when I perform, but I'm actually having a great time. But I didn't just feel that way at the Williams Center. I felt that way after DJing at the Neon Ball at the Elks, at Pride Fest, and as an attendee at the Multicultural Festival. Giving the Williams Center the title Heart of the Town misses truly what the heart of any town is, and that is its people. Perhaps the people of this town who care about art and true community don't put all of their eggs in this one basket. I would ask the council to continue to consider alternatives to supporting the arts outside of the Williams Center, not out of a desire to compete with the center, but to give ourselves as a community more opportunities to transcend the fractures that threaten all communities, namely extended work hours, online gossip, and the numbing omnipresence of trivial distraction. Moments when we value connection over winning, even as simple as dining under the stars or just the events at Lincoln Park and the events at the Williams Center, make me enjoy living here. But right now, I don't. And I don't see any one person as the single reason for that, but a small group of individuals trying to win ideological fights at the cost of community. The motivation for this recent controversial booking appears to be the position that free artistic expression has a value. I agree with this value. However, given the inarticulate communication regarding the motivation for the booking and the baggage associated with the performers, one might argue that those responsible for the booking may value the freedom of expression more than communal harmony, or if Native Development considers the community and free expression on equal footing, they have articulated that position poorly, and in doing so, allowed this important, nuanced conversation about free speech and expression to be framed in simplistic conflict. They aren't the only ones who have intensified this conflict, as anyone with a Facebook or Twitter account is probably aware. If we truly consider ourselves a community, I'm going to propose what I'm sure will be a controversial proposition. Stop fetishizing the Williams Center. I fell for this trap, and then I began to repeatedly see how time and time again, people want to control this narrative of saving the Williams Center, as if this is a prize to be won and a title to be held. There is nothing to be won by weaving this story, only social comparison and the resulting resentment. No one person saved the Williams Center. It took a community to save it, and whatever happens in our uncertain future is jointly in the hands of this community and the organization entrusted with private ownership, Native Development. My last point, that a truly open heart cannot be privately owned, as evidenced by what I emphasized about the heart of any community being its people. That physical space is going to be transformed by the vision of Native Development and their interests, and they are footing the bill for that to happen, no one else. In a capitalist society, their private ownership gives them the right to shape the space within the legal parameters set by you, the local government. So it is now their heart of the town. All the more reason as a community to consider abandoning not necessarily the space, but whatever notions we have of this space, and focus on initiatives that build community and ultimately heal in a variety of ways. This is difficult to do because unlike brick and steel and glass, our true communal heart is abstract and intangible, and we may lack the social and emotional competencies at this point to do that, to build that. But if we approach it with openness and understanding, our heart can be built one connection at a time, which will have more meaning than any single construction project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, and members of the Rutherford public and community that are here. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. My name is Charles Olivo. That was my brother Dan. And I'm the owner of the Williams Center. And I greatly appreciate this opportunity to speak. I know it's been a long few days for everyone. I hope everyone is doing okay. There's been a number of people that reached out to me over the last few days, and they asked me that question, are you okay? And it took on a whole new meaning for me, and I greatly appreciate those people doing so, and I hope that everyone in this room and that's listening at home is doing okay, because I know it's been a challenging few days. I don't know if you've ever been to open mic night at the Williams Center, but we have a wonderful MC. His name is Leland, and he's here tonight, and he does an amazing job. And about a month or so ago, my wife Meg and I, who've been here for about 17 years, my daughter Mia, we said, let's go check out open mic night, see what it's like. And I went there, and my brother Michael and my friend Matt and Anthony, our Williams Center team, were running the event. And my brother Dan was there, my sister-in-law Lisa and their kids, and I had an opportunity to watch it for the first time. And I was kind of sitting in the back, watching everything happen, and there was a young lady who who got up at the microphone with her guitar, and she said, "I've never performed in front of anyone before, and I just started playing the guitar, and I'm going to give it a shot." And she started playing the guitar. She said, "I'm going to sing a KT Tunstall song," and I don't know, I guess I'm getting pretty old. I didn't know who the musician was. I didn't know the song that she mentioned. And it's kind of the beauty of open mic night, is there's just this spontaneity and unpredictableness of what's going to happen. We don't know much about the performers. Sometimes we don't know anything about the performers. And Lee does this great job of just making them feel comfortable. It was about 30 people. It wasn't a big showing, but it was a good crowd. And this young lady got up. She said, "I'm going to sing this song." And I just remember when she started singing. I don't remember a single lyric, but I felt every emotion in my body just turn on. And I actually had to ask myself, like, why are you getting so emotional about this? Her voice sounded beautiful. I don't know, if we're just playing the guitar, she sounded pretty awesome to me. I don't remember a lyric of the song, but I remember the way that I felt, and the way that I felt about Lee and the job that he was doing, and the way that I felt about Michael and Matt and Anthony and my daughter Mia and what they were doing, and I just felt like we were really onto something, and I feel like we really are onto something. In just that moment, just that really simple, spontaneous moment. And later in the night, to close the night, a young local comedian by the name of Steve Way, who I had opportunity to speak with last night, he got up. And as the comedian that he is, he started telling jokes. And they were really good. And he was really funny. But he really made me sad too. And they were kind of dark. And they were kind of raw. And he made me feel a very different way about art and expression in that moment. And again, I loved it. And I felt like, and Lee closed it out. He did an amazing job. And I just felt like we're on to something here. Because in that spontaneity and in all of those feelings, that is art. And it's the only way I can describe what art is to me, but it comes from that freedom of speech and freedom of expression that the young lady and Steve upheld in such a beautiful way. We were approached by a comedian. That comedian asked if the Williams Center could be a venue on their tour, their comedy tour. My brother Michael and I and the Williams Center team, we discussed it. He mentioned who the comedians were, and we agreed to host those comedians at the Williams Center last Thursday to also exercise their right of expression, their freedom of speech, and all that goes along with that. And the freedom of speech and expression has been part of this process all along. Some highlights, I think some wonderful moments of that freedom of expression were last summer when there was a protest outside the Williams Center. Also examples of that expression were the opportunity that I was given to speak about my desire to buy the building and connect it to the entire community and make it a real and functioning arts center. Also present plans, present vision, present my hopes and dreams for the Arts Center as it ties to this community.
I'm sorry, Chuck, you're 5. I'll let you finish up.
Okay, sorry, very quickly. I would just say that there's also another side of that freedom, which is your freedom to object to my vision, to object to my dreams, to object to and accuse me of things, and all of that comes along with that. That is the freedom of speech. That is the freedom of expression, and I will risk everything. I will put everything on the line. This project, my business, my life, to allow you to have that freedom of expression in whatever way you think is best to speak about this project. And what I would ask is that on Thursday night at 6:30, you come to the town hall that we've invited this entire community to speak and express whatever it is that you're feeling in front of our entire team. Just briefly, and I'll finish up, Mayor Steve Way and I had the opportunity to speak and talk about engaging the Civil Rights Commission. He's giving me an opportunity to meet with the Civil Rights Commission, and the Civil Rights Commission will also be present, and whatever members they can be, on Thursday evening. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public wishing to speak?
Good evening, everybody. Steve Way, 152 West Mill Avenue.
No, you guys can stand up. I'm addressing the councilwoman. That's fine. I'm just addressing that. That's,
On behalf of the Civil Rights Commission, yesterday, the Williams Center issued a statement disclosing that it knowingly and purposefully scheduled an event last Thursday featuring a comedy troupe whose performers have been linked to public displays of bigotry, white supremacy, and glorification of violence. Our understanding is that the event was canceled by the Williams Center after borough officials raised public safety concerns, including the potential risk of violent confrontation stemming from Williams Center ownership failing to alert anyone that the event was taking place. The Williams Center's November 13th, 2022 statement declared that moving forward, the center will continue to schedule events that explore freedom of expression and differing beliefs. Freedom of expression is at the heart of any free society. This often comes at a cost. It means protections must be afforded to people with whom we have fierce disagreements, or to people who express views that may be offensive to others. This includes those who would espouse hate speech. Accordingly, the Williams Center is free to engage any entertainment event it so chooses. It is free to host events that showcase divisive rhetoric and incite hatred on the basis of race, religion, skin color, disability, sexual identity, gender identity, and ethnicity. While we may dispute whether hate speech is protected speech, the question that troubles the Commission most deeply is why allow hate into our town at a place that is being revitalized in the name of community, not division. Just because the law permits us to do something, should we do it? Where does duty of care and respect for Rutherford residents, law enforcement, and leadership enter into decision-making? We ask these questions of the Williams Center ownership because hate speech breeds hate crime. While the Commission fully respects freedom of expression, we reject any and all rhetoric that fosters a climate in which discrimination and intolerance are normalized. Because it is possible to value freedom of expression without enabling hateful expression. Because we can share opposing views without painting misogyny, xenophobia, and racism as irony or satire. Because artistry can engage without showcasing divisive rhetoric that vilifies, humiliates, and incites hatred. And because it is possible to do better, and we would welcome that. We are so grateful for the diligent and swift action of concerned residents, the mayor and council, and the Rutherford Police Department in trying to maintain safety of our residents. We urge all of our Rutherford friends, families, and neighbors to continue to value empathy and uphold human dignity in our town, and to help ensure that our community is a place where human rights for all is respected, so that all feel safe, empowered, and welcome. The Commission remains available to discuss these issues with any concerned residents. And if anybody here today feels unsafe, attacked, or they just want to talk, we are here for everybody as an individual or a commission. Solidarity forever. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. I'm sorry, Christy, can you, 1 second? I'm sorry.
Mayor, Council, my name is Lee Gill. I live at 86 Darwin Avenue, and I am the host of the open mic that was brought up when Charles spoke earlier. I grew up in Rutherford basically my entire life, since I was 8 years old. Went to RHS, left, came back. And, this town has always been diverse, but I've also faced my fair amount of discrimination too here. I'm not naive to think that a town that strives to be inclusive doesn't struggle with discrimination, bigotry on a level of the soil, on a dirt level. And so when I moved back and proposed the idea of the open mic, it was with the understanding that it would be open to all, accessible to all. And that's exactly what we accomplished since the very first one in July up until the last one in October. So you can imagine my surprise, given my involvement with the Williams Center for the Open Mic and other events, that an event featuring a group that calls for my destruction and enslavement was allowed to perform in a space where I felt safe. It was a shock. It was a surprise. I thought that, wiser heads were at the helm. How can you shake hands with someone who wants to annihilate you? Where is the middle ground in an existential crisis? You don't shake hands with a rabid dog trying to bite your throat. You cage it and contain it. Gavin McGinnis is a neo-Nazi, an unashamed, unabashed white supremacist. So if Mr. Olivo wants to talk about my open mic and building community, what community did he believe I could have with a man like that in this town?
Anybody else from the public wishing to speak? Please state your name and address and keep your comments to 5 minutes or less, please.
My name's Robert Schaefer, 21 Inslee Avenue, and I just wanted to quickly bring up the topic. I don't know if anybody's doing anything about it, but the flooding on the west end of town. On Inslee Avenue, we've had 2 substantial floods on Hurricane Irene and also Hurricane Ida. Both times I suffered almost a $50,000 loss because my basement was fully finished. It was living space, and my point is, you know, what's done is done, but because I filled out a claim with FEMA, I'm on their email list, and every time I get an email from them, they're saying there's like $256 million of money still available to be claimed by towns to fix issues associated with Hurricane Ida. Now, because of where I live, the water comes down Inslee Avenue from Vanderburg, and it comes from Carmita down every street and floods this whole area. I was born and raised in Rutherford. I lived on Vanderburg, right around the corner from where I am now. As a kid, we used to swim on Inslee Avenue. I bought a house there in 1984 because I was under the impression that this was all solved when they added a second sewer right in front of my house. But that only goes into the other one. So we can't, if the town, even though it seemed like it was done, there's got to be something wrong with the sewer system here. And given the opportunity to have the federal government pay for things, we'd be foolish not to take advantage of that and once and for all take care of it. I know Carmita Avenue has the same problem. Some people on West Passaic have the same problem. I have a house where my mother-in-law used to live on Erie Avenue on corner of Grand, and Hurricane Ida, the water came down so fast that it inundated that whole area too, and that basement was destroyed also. There's only one sewer on Inslee Avenue, that whole block, one, and then the one in front of my house feeding to try and collect more water into it. I noticed on West Erie Avenue, there's 2 sections where the 3 sewer grates right together in like a C. I guess that's to collect more water. But in my block, there's nothing being done currently. You got the streets falling in places. They just after the storm, they actually dug up the street in front of my house and the street next to me because the water was just sitting there and getting stagnant and everything else. So I just would respectfully ask that whoever's in charge of securing grants, file for this and let's solve this problem and any other problems while this money's still available before it gets sucked up by someone else. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. After public comment, we'll have somebody address the borough administrator will address your concern. Anybody else from the public wishing to speak?
Katie Pippin, 261 Santiago Avenue. Yesterday, the Williams Center released an announcement regarding the cognitive dissonance comedy event. They stated that they support freedom of artistic expression. We agree that art is meant to be thought-provoking and incite emotion. However, when that artistic expression is of low quality and value at best, and hate speech disguises art at worst, it is difficult to support that expression. Let me share with you some of the artistic expressions of cognitive dissonance headliner Gavin McGinnis, who, by the way, founded the Proud Boys, a far-right, white nationalist, neo-fascist group that is anti-feminist, anti-immigration, anti-LGBTQIA rights, anti-Semitic, Islamophobic, chauvinistic, and just generally offensive to anyone who is an extremely conservative white man. And I quote, "Antifa are just sad fat girls with purple hair and bad tattoos." Transphobia is perfectly natural. I love being white, and I think it's something to be very proud of. I don't want our culture diluted. He referred to our US Senator Cory Booker as kind of like a Sambo. And then there's a really long quote about how Muslims have a problem with inbreeding that I can't. It's disgusting. People would be happier if women would stop pretending to be men, and other things that are just inappropriate for a government meeting. As a Jewish woman, I cannot support this. As a parent, I cannot support this. And as an artist, I cannot support this. How does this sort of artistic expression benefit Rutherford? Who thought that inviting a bunch of Nazis to Rutherford and plying them with free booze was a good idea? The Williams Center does not exist in a bubble. In order to succeed, it needs the support of the community around it. Alienating your repeat customers for a few bucks and then doubling down on your decision was penny wise, pound foolish. This community trusted you with the Williams Center, and you shattered that trust. As a result, the Rutherford Arts Council no longer supports Native development as the redeveloper of the Williams Center. We will not attend future events or seek further collaboration. I encourage the council not to give Native a pilot agreement, and if possible, withdraw them as redevelopers to space. And this is not a statement made lightly, as I and other members of the community have fought hard for decades to save this historic theater. But that theater needs to be a safe space for our kids, both in terms of ceiling plaster and in terms of ideology.
Anybody else from the public wishing to speak? Please keep your comments to 5 minutes or less, Mr. LeBruno.
Sure, that
And
should be
name and
no
address,
problem.
please.
That should be no problem. David LeBruno, 423 Stuyvesant Avenue. Question about the procedure involved with having these proposals before us this evening. Not 2 short meetings ago, there was a proposal for a pilot where we had no financial information about it. It was introduced on a first reading. I'm sure it's supported by the mayor at the time. And then,
You should not make assumptions, sir.
okay, well, it came up, an application has to be approved by the mayor and forwarded to the council by state law. And not 2 meetings ago, it was said that we're just doing this procedurally to give Mr. Olivo a good faith basis for which he can go out and receive financial support. And then we get the notice on Friday, which said, here's a pilot, it's on second reading, it's to be approved at the next meeting. And at that meeting a couple weeks ago, council people told me that this procedurally would go through a first reading again so that the public would have ability to comment on this, ability to absorb the information, make reasoned comments. Unfortunately, then the information comes out on Friday, and then we're here on a meeting on Monday. So I understand it's been canceled, these parts. I don't know, maybe the council would say, you said you had problems with the contracts. Any that you would like to share with us this evening? Any problems, so I don't have to waste my time reading the rest of those and identifying other problems? But is there particular reasons that you can state this evening about what is problematic with the financial agreement that was developed by our financial advisor with the expertise of our redevelopment attorney, signed off, I'd imagine, because it's here on a second reading, or was to be tonight. So I'm not sure what the problem is with respect to the financial agreement. You said you had problems with that agreement. I would just hope you'd be able to share some of them this evening, because everyone voted 6-0 to remove it for problems with the financial agreement, problems with the redevelopment agreement, but those haven't been addressed this evening. And I would hope when we come back again with this, that it goes through a first reading, because when we did have the first reading, there was absolutely no information about the financial agreement that was presented to the public. And it was stated, certainly by several of these council people, after the meeting, that it would go through a first again so that the public would have an opportunity. That was the transparency that was promised after the meeting, but I would hope that there would be a follow-through with that when we come to this decision in the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else from the public wishing to speak? No, you can get up, Eddie. I'm sorry, ma'am. You go first. He's a former councilman. He's used to this.
Hi, my name is Ariana, located at 59 Park Avenue.
May we have your last name, too?
Saenz, S-A-E-N-Z. Sorry, that was a little loud. I just had a few questions. I'll make it brief. I just wanted to know when, for the liquor license, when will the restaurants start to be notified? And as well, if there's going to be like a ballpark on the price, and where and when we will be able to apply for the license so we can start getting proper documents. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Go ahead, Councilman. Took you long enough.
Good afternoon. My name is Eddie Naruki, 49 Woodward Avenue. I'll be very, very brief, just to talk about it hitting home the other day. My son works at the movie theaters and was working that on Thursday night. And it hit home because we're concerned about his safety too. And it is my son. I have 2 boys. I have a beautiful family here and I live in a beautiful community. And certainly we do not want hate in this community. It's time to get the signs out. Hate has no home in Rutherford. Hate has no home in Rutherford. So please join with me, everyone. Make sure you go out, buy your Hate Has No Home signs, and put them up, please. Also, the Williams Center, the cinemas that are downstairs are still serving delicious popcorn. Please go see a movie there. And the last thing is way too many pickleball courts. It's way too many. No, bye.
Anybody else from the public?
Eddie Rowland, 7 Clark Avenue. I encourage the council and the people in attendance to look at the TED Talk, Why I, as a Black Man, Attend KKK Rallies by Daryl Davis. We had a TED Talk scheduled, I believe, a while back at the Williams Center that got canceled because of COVID. So that's a potential interesting topic, that a Black man who attends KKK rallies for the purpose of talking to the white supremacists and getting them to take off their robes and leave the Klan. Conversations are more important than grandstanding. The grandstanding that goes on in this town, on social media, rarely in person, but mostly on social media, is ridiculous. I've been called a Nazi. I've been called a communist in the same thread by people on the far right, far left, middle, establishment, it doesn't matter. So the facts seem to be switching around. I don't know what to believe with the situation. Did the Williams Center new owners know that this was a white supremacist rally? I don't know that it was a white supremacist rally. It sounded like it was supposed to be a comedy show that had a controversial figure that founded the Proud Boys, also Vice magazine, and doing a little research, he's married to a Native American woman. So he's married to a woman of color, but he's a Nazi. I know I don't like him. I know he's not my cup of tea, but if he's not there, having a Nazi rally and doing hate speech, if he's there doing a comedy show, you pay your ticket or you don't pay your ticket. You go, you don't go. If there's any danger, if there's anybody that wants to protest, that's their freedom also. I would be there to protest anything that was Nazi, far-right hate speech. I'd be there to protect anybody that was next to me. I've been told online I'm not Spanish enough to have an opinion like this, not disabled enough to have an opinion like this, that I'm a white man, I can't have an opinion. I have LGBTQ kids. I've been to the Pride events. I can have free speech in my town, and we can have a conversation about it. The police can provide protection. From what I understand, they had the show the next day in Long Island, if somebody can verify it, and there was no violence. Maybe it wasn't funny. Maybe it's not something that you'd find funny. I like Steve Way, but he's a little obscene. He's hilarious, but he's obscene. That's okay. When I'm at the Williams Center on Thursday nights during the summer, I was hosting Dungeons and Dragons, and we're having kids play, adults play. There were times in the 80s where this was considered a satanic panic. You couldn't play Dungeons and Dragons because it's too dangerous. It was Al Gore's wife that was against Dungeons and Dragons and explicit lyrics. I went to a show with very explicit lyrics at the Williams Center, which I think a few of you guys were at, some even performing. That's okay with me too. If somebody doesn't like it, they can leave. But the idea that the situation was taken out of the Williams Center, a private business, to not allow them to do this, I don't know what's true about that or not. So hopefully we can get to the bottom of this and figure it out for the future. But even speech you don't like, you have to listen to. I know a lot of people aren't going to like what I'm saying right now, but that's okay. I have a right to say it. I have a right to live in town. I have a right to say my piece. But I also remember that a lot of people were all in favor of giving this spot away for $1. You didn't give it to the school board for $1. When I was on the school board, I was elected, and I served from 2017 to 2020, I brought it up during meetings. Hey, why not, we bid on this. There's no chance for a bid. It was given away for $1, but you liked the guy that you were giving it away to. Did you not do your due diligence? Was this, half-baked? He's got the spot. It's his. He can do with it what he wants. Hopefully we get to the bottom of facts and we don't just make straw man arguments about, it was a Hitler march or something like that. That doesn't seem to be the case at all, but some people are making these straw man arguments because they're easy to knock down.
Mr. Rowland, you're F5, but I'll let you finish.
Okay. In closing, free speech is a slippery slope. If they aren't allowed to allow somebody to come out and talk without violence, then maybe they're going to come after what you want to say. How long did it take us to get a pride flag up? It wasn't immediate. There were towns in Tennessee that had a pride flag before us. So let's be open-minded and find out what the true facts are. Have a good night.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public wishing to speak? Hey, Lena, could you name, address, in 5 minutes?
Lena Merrill, 95 West Passaic. I was going to say something else, but in the TED Talk that Eddie mentioned, he went to the KKK rally. The KKK rally didn't wind up on his front lawn. And I think a lot of us feel like with the freedom that the owner of the Williams Center had to book whatever he wanted, he also had the responsibility to consider the community in which he was inviting these people to. And for a lot of us, it was very shocking, just the news of it, the idea that you had to get involved, that the chief of police had to get involved. It was concerning. At 6:30 that night, I was on a bus coming from the city, and you could cut the tension on that bus with a knife. Everyone on the express bus back to Rutherford. I was talking to a friend, like what I thought was quietly, and some lady reached up through the seat and grabbed my arm and said, "Do you know anything?" And the panic on her face was so clear. And it's like, schools were out, no school the next day, your kids are running in the city, you don't know where they are in Rutherford. And of course, it happened somewhere else. But that shouldn't have been a decision that was made lightly. And for you to stand on a soapbox after the fact and double down on that decision and expect the rest of us to just swallow it, I think is beyond the pale. And as a parent, I'm offended. As a citizen, I'm offended, and as someone who supported the Williams Center, I was really happy that you guys worked really hard to find a solution. You just think you've seen everything. It's just amazing to me. And I don't know what happens from here now. But I would strongly request that anything that can be done to keep this person from bringing those types of people into this town be done. I appreciate your listening.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Allowing me to speak. My name is Alejandro Rad. I live at 229 Jackson Avenue. When I moved here about 7 years ago, I was very welcomed by my neighbor across the street, Chuck, and his brother, Michael. And through the course of the years, after living 30 years in Manhattan, I'm originally from Argentina, and I've been living in the process of having military governments ruling people's lives and telling them the way you got to think. It was very satisfying after being in Manhattan, living in the West Village, East Village, to meeting them here in Jersey and seeing through their hearts the kind of an openness that the society right now is asking for. It needs an open state of mind. This idea, sitting on the TV, sitting at home and getting from the TV all this fear, where we should be separate from each other and offended out of anything, doesn't make any sense anymore. The only way to cross the island, to reach to the people, is to actually put everything on the table. Everyone should have the right to say whatever they wanted. That's why there are places that have one follower, there are people that have millions of followers. Everyone has the right to choose whatever they want to do. Yes, I agree on some people are offending. It's true. I agree with that, and some people are out of the line. But that doesn't mean that the town doesn't have the opportunity to have all kind of expressions taking place. The town will be missing a lot if you take that away from the beautiful wisdom and the beautiful mind that Chuck and his family have. And let me say one more thing here. I disagree with some of the views that this group eventually have. I totally disagree with it. I don't even know where that's coming from. I have nothing to do with it. But I do have to say that it will be nice that you have a place here in town that everyone has the opportunity to come up with any desire to express who they are. And there should not be any limit to it. That's why there is a private and enclosed event. If you don't like, don't go. If you like, you go. But suddenly, we may have a society here one day where every kid in town will be able to express their talent, their art, their music. And it will be a community that at least providing them a place to be wherever they want to be. And that's, I think, what the town should cheers for, is supporting that. Again, I haven't been myself in the Williams Center in many of the events, maybe because I didn't care, maybe I didn't know, but it will be nice if this town could recognize and they have one place that expression, even if it's not popular, could take place. And I think it will be the greatest statement you could have here in town. Thank you.
Anybody else from the public wishing to speak? No, reverse it. Mr. Zor, can you just please let her go first? Told you, Mr. Zor, you should always be sitting up front.
Hi, Janine Hill Fletcher, 111 Prospect Place. I'm reluctantly standing before you, Mr. Mayor, and the council. I am a professor at Fordham University, and I've studied the history of racism in this country, and I've seen the many, many hundreds of thousands of little acts that individuals and communities have done to create racism in our country. I know that we have heard a lot about free speech tonight, but there is a clear sense in which the Proud Boys are pushing the envelope of free speech in order to promote hate speech that has dire consequences, as we have seen across the nation, specifically in Charlottesville in 2017, and in other locations in which the Proud Boys have instigated violence. I am struck by the fact that the current owner of the Williams Center has shown his cards, that he will push an agenda, as far as I can tell, push his agenda to allow hate speech under the guise of free speech. I'm struck by the fact that he has done this at a moment when we now see those cards and perhaps have other decisions in front of us because of that. So I moved to Rutherford, and I am so proud that we are a town that came together and put onto our agenda the commitment that Black Lives Matter. I see around our neighborhood stigma-free. I don't think that we can have it both ways. So thank you.
Thank you, Denise. All right, come on, Mr. Zora.
Thank you, Mayor. How everybody? Adam Zura here, 94 Freeland Avenue. I know you've pulled the controversial issue off the agenda, but so you may hear some of this next go around. But anyway, first thing we have to do is remember that the first rule of holes is to know when to stop digging. Stopping too soon and you have the entrance of the police station, the new police station, 5 feet above grade. But if you wait too long and you have the council repeatedly handing out a friends and family deal that's turned one allegedly well-financed resident into an instant multimillionaire, and who was has shown to be equally unable to adequately fund an unwanted Sylvan Street high-rise project, we have problems. As we've seen, even a gifting of millions more in Sylvan and Ettrick properties hasn't enticed investors to come to the project. Tonight's big steel vote, which would have happened, gifting your friend with a 35-year property tax exemption, which would be worth tens of millions at today's tax rate, is the most egregious taxpayer be damned move ever. I'd like to know when the council is going to actually own up to its pledge that it made about 18 months ago and cancel this bottomless pit of giveaways and turn rehabilitation of the William Carlos Williams Center for the Performing Arts over to a competent, well-financed expert. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Zara. Anybody else from the public wishing to speak? Seeing none, I'm going to close it to the public and open it up for council comment. But before we move to that, I would just like to say our obligation is not to weigh in on what a private owner does. Our obligation is to weigh in on the safety concerns to our community. It came to us from the state, the police chief addressed it accordingly, and we stood behind it. That's our obligation to this community. Thank you. Council, anybody want to say anything? Council President.
Thank you, Mayor. So at the outset of the meeting, I requested that everything having to do with the Williams Center Development Plan be pulled. I just want to be clear that in my statement, I made a point to say that I had particular issues with the project. So we're talking about the project itself. This is what's going on here is separate and distinct from what's happening with the project itself. So truth be told, I was on vacation a week ago. For the past week, I was away with my family. The agenda was set while I was away. So when I got back, I had the opportunity to review all of the documentation, re-review the plan, and go through everything related to what we were going to vote on tonight. In my review of that plan, I still have a lot of outstanding questions that were brought forth, not only by my colleagues sitting up here, but also by members of the public, specifically related to how parking would have been handled related to this development project, what would happen with the Ettrick Terrace permit holders, how the borough would be able to deal with the influx of potential patrons to this event space in the event that this project was going to move forward. And to your point, Mr. LeBruno, I think I do see you back there. The beauty of the process allows me, as the person who is putting this forth on his agenda, to pull it back until my questions are answered appropriately and in a way that's going to satisfy not only myself, but my colleagues sitting up here and the professionals that assist us in doing the work that we do on this particular project. So, Mr. LeBruno, to your point, not the redevelopers agreement, not so much the financial agreement, but more and more, since the last council meeting, I've been approached by the parking situation. What is going to happen with our neighbors on Ettrick Terrace? How are we going to deal with the influx of patrons that could potentially be coming into the borough? We need to make sure that whatever moves forward is right for the town can handle it, and is going to be right for the community moving forward, not only in the short term, but absolutely in the long term. And that's why I requested my colleagues allow me to pull this back until I had clearer answers on those particulars of the project itself. So I just wanted to offer you that explanation and offer sort of the explanation of what was happening regarding the conversation here and why what I was doing at the beginning of the meeting. So thank you, Mayor. I appreciate that.
Thank you, Council President. Anybody else from the council wishing to speak? Councilman?
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Way, I thank you and the members of the Civil Rights Commission for your statement this evening. It was incredibly powerful, level-headed, and well said. You asked at the end of your statement if anyone was scared. And Thursday evening, I was scared, right? We are privy to security information that others are not. I had to call my son, who's 14, and wanders Park Avenue on his nights out when he has the day off of school the next day, and beg him to stay with his friends across town. He came home and asked me if I could drive him to a friend's house, and there was a white U-Haul truck parked outside of her house that pulled away within moments of me walking out the front door. I had to ask him to text me the license plate number. Arizona plates, random, bizarre. No one's moving on our block. But you asked who was scared. Us up here. I was scared. And that's what that invites into a community. Regardless of free speech and how you feel, we need to be more cognizant of each other, right? This has been my message from the jump. I'm learning and moving on the fly as fast as I can. And this is one of the most difficult subjects to be a part of in terms of the discussion, because I am bound by my duties to this job. So I applaud you, Civil Rights Commission. I thank you for stepping forward, acknowledging the fundamental theory, but also countering with a level-headed precision that only you all can come up with. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Anybody else from the council wishing to speak? You want to speak? Councilwoman?
Thank you, Mayor. First, I would just want to extend my heartfelt, incredible appreciation for the rawness and honesty of everyone who stood up tonight to speak. It speaks volumes about this community and the love and passion that I think everybody in this room has for it. And so I just want to acknowledge that, because I think it's very important when we have difficult discussions to remember that we are neighbors, and that at the heart of everybody's comments is about fighting for the place that they love. And so I just want to validate and acknowledge that and make sure that people feel heard, because you were heard tonight. I would like to ask the Borough Administrator, Mayor, to speak to the two issues presented this evening, particularly about the flooding matter, and also if he could reference about the liquor license matter as well, both of which were topics addressed within the ebb and flow of the meeting this evening. Bob?
Excuse me, Bob. Can you give me 5 minutes? You take care of this? Sorry.
Actually, I have to go to the bathroom.
Okay, well, I'll take the liquor license issue first. So we are currently going through the procurement process. I don't have the dates to memory right now, but it was advertised twice in the paper. We will be accepting bids for 2 plenary licenses. I believe they're due December 14th, but there is a pre-qualification process. If you go to our website, I'll have all the information, all the paperwork that's required. The minimum bid on those is $150,000 per license. And after the bid process is completed, then due diligence will be done to make sure the pre-qualifieds are eligible. We will then make the recommendation. The police department will do its review of the requests, and then if they pass the due diligence, we will then make the recommendation to the council for issuing those licenses to those prospective winning bids. The information is on our website under the employment and bids section of our website. They give you all the dates. They're coming up in the next few weeks, though. With regards to the flooding, Mr. Schaefer, actually the mayor and I met with residents from Carnegie recently, Inslee being right nearby, so this would have impacted you as well. We have applied for and received a grant for $750,000 with the support of Congressman Pascrell. We expect that award to be received by the borough in early '23. That's going to be for a project specific to your neighborhood. The engineer has given us a proposed project. When we applied for it, whatever funding is needed to make this thing work, we are definitely looking to address the flooding down there. We do have some additional federal ARP money, American Rescue money, that if we need to, we will tap into that to make sure we do this project correctly. In the meantime, there is a little bit of a Band-Aid approach being done right now. There's some additional catch basins being added near Jackson area to help with some of that water that's flowing down from like West Gouverneur and those areas, streets like that in that area. But again, it's just a Band-Aid. But we are looking for a more thorough and complete project to address the flooding in your areas. If we add some sort of pump-in, outflow, whatever the technology is, we will definitely look into it. We actually even mentioned hiring a special projects engineer who does specialize in these flood mitigation type projects. So we are taking it serious. I would expect more action to occur when the grant comes in. We'll bid it out probably in the spring of next year and hopefully begin construction and get it complete through the summer next year.
I was just, thank you, Bob. And Mayor, were you, forgive me for, you just walked back in, but thank you for announcing that. I believe the only matter that was unaddressed was the matter regarding Teterboro and the noise, and I know that you take particular interest to that. Might you be able to speak to that this evening?
Yes. So we had the meeting, the special meeting, see Tommaso, and then we had the regular meeting, which I assume you attended. They are moving the sound decibel machines, I'm not really up to speed on it, into your area. The Port Authority is open to looking at it, but again, it's going to take time. It's government. It's worse than ours. But we are looking to address your concerns, and the chairman, who is my alternate, is the one handling all this. So if it's okay with you, I will have someone reach out to you next week to set up a meeting with him. Okay? Thank you. Councilman Leahy. Councilwoman?
So thank you all for coming today. I'm just so torn because I'm a councilwoman, so I have to be so careful what I say. But on a general level, I'm going to say that as a woman of color, when you hear stories of racism, it brings up old wounds, it brings up new wounds, and it's painful. It's just painful, and I feel like a big wound has been opened in our town, and we have to figure out how to fix it. But I will say, you know, as a councilwoman, I will always make sure that every vote that I make is in the best interest of the town. I will remove my emotion because it's about the long term of our town. But this was hard. This was hard to hear today, and I didn't realize how emotional it would be. Thank you all for coming, and you know, we will figure this out. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else from the council wishing to speak? Seeing none, I'm just going to say that we have an obligation up here to be open, to listen, and everyone has a right to free speech. In whatever they believe it is, if it's speech, it's speech. As my wife assured me this morning, that hate speech has no right. It's not free speech. So we don't have the luxury up here of addressing any of that. Our job is to look at the concerns that our community was given on Thursday. It was last minute, it was a safety issue, and that's all we had to address. And I commend our police chief. He got the intel late. He dealt with it as he felt it had to be done in conjunction with state and local authorities. That's it. That's our job. Whether we feel something, want to say something, we cannot. We are here to address the issues based on how they come at us. I commend our police chief for doing an incredible job during a very ridiculous situation that we were caught off guard. So to Chief Russo, I commend you greatly. And as Forrest Gump says, that's all I got to say about that. All right, we're going to move on now to our agenda. Council President.
Thank you, Mayor. First up, we have the approval of the regular meeting minutes of October 24th, 2022. Councilwoman McGowan was absent. Motion.
Motion by Council President, and watching everybody run out. Second, please.
Second.
Second by Councilman Guzman. Any questions or comments by the council? Seeing none, may I have a roll call?
Councilman Goldtech?
Yes.
Councilman Leahy?
Yes.
Councilman Coakley?
Yes.
Councilman McGowan?
Abstain.
Councilman Big Roberson?
Yes.
Councilman Guzman?
Yes.
Thank you.
Have a good night, all.
Well, we're going to give you 1 minute before we move on for the Exodus. It was like the time I got home from a party and my kids were home with their friends.
Thank you, Mayor. Next, we have an authorization to suspend all borough parking meters from December 12th, 2022 to January 2nd, 2023. Motion.
I have a motion by the Council President. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman McGowan. Any questions or comments by the council? Seeing none, may I have a roll call?
Councilman Goldtech?
Yes.
Councilman Leahy?
Yes.
Councilman Coakley?
Yes.
Councilman McGowan?
Yes.
Councilman Big Roberson?
Yeah.
Councilman Guzman?
Yes.
Thank you. Next, we have an authorization to advertise for RFPs for 2023 professional services. Motion.
Motion by Council President. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman McGowan. Any questions or comments by the council? Seeing none, may I have a roll call?
Councilman Goldtech?
Yes.
Councilman Leahy?
Abstain.
Councilman Coakley?
Yes.
Councilman McGowan?
Yes.
Councilman Big Roberson?
Yes.
Councilman Guzman?
Yes.
Thank you.
Consent agenda. All items authorized to be consent by the council will be enacted by one motion. These items are routine in nature. Motion.
Motion by Council President. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman McGowan. Any questions or comments by the council? Seeing none, may I have a roll call?
Councilman Goldtech?
Yes.
Councilman Leahy?
Yes.
Councilman Coakley?
Yes.
Councilman McGowan?
Yes.
Councilman Big Roberson?
Yes.
Councilman Guzman?
Yes.
Thank you. No, thank you. Moving on. Councilman McGowan.
Thank you, Mayor. First, I'd like to move resolution number 215, canceling outstanding checks. Motion.
Motion by Council McGowan. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Council President. Any questions or comments by the council? Seeing none, may I have a roll call?
Goldtech?
Yes.
Councilman Leahy?
Yes.
Councilman Coakley?
Yes.
Councilman McGowan?
Yes.
Councilman Big Roberson?
Yes.
Councilman Guzman?
Yes.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to move resolution number 216, increasing the COA attorney Eric Bernstein and Associates cap to $25,000. Motion.
Motion by Councilman McGowan. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Guzman. Any questions or comments by the council? Seeing none, may I have a roll call?
Councilman Goldtech?
Yes.
Councilman Leahy?
Yes.
Councilman Coakley?
Yes.
Councilman McGowan?
Yes.
Councilman Big Roberson?
Yes.
Councilman Guzman?
Yes.
Thank you.
Next, I'd like to move resolution number 217, the increasing borough, which is increasing the borough engineer's 2022 contract cap to $75,000. Motion.
Motion by Councilman McGowan. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Council President. Any questions or comments by the council? Hearing none. May I have a roll call?
Councilman Goldtech?
Yes.
Councilman Leahy?
Yes.
Councilman Coakley?
Yes.
Councilman McGowan?
Yes.
Councilman Big Roberson?
Yes.
Councilman Guzman?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is resolution number 218, authorizing the budget transfer of funds. Motion.
Motion by Councilman McGowan. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Guzman. Any questions by the council? Hearing none. May I have a roll call?
Councilman Goldtech?
Yes.
Councilman Leahy?
Yes.
Councilman Coakley?
Yes.
Councilman McGowan?
Yes.
Councilman Big Roberson?
Yes.
Councilman Guzman?
Yes.
Thank you.
Next is resolution number 219, awarding cooperative contract to AccuScan for scanning and digital storing of building department documents. Motion.
Motion by Councilman McGowan. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Council President. Any questions or comments by the council? Hearing none. May I have a roll call, please?
Councilman Goldtech?
Yes.
Councilman Leahy?
Yes.
Councilman Coakley?
Yes.
Councilman McGowan?
Yes.
Councilman Big Roberson?
Yes.
Councilman Guzman?
Yes.
Next, Mayor, I'd like to open a discussion regarding the best practices checklist and ask our Borough Administrator, Bob, to share an update with the Mayor and Council.
Bob? Robert?
Thank you.
Caco?
The best practices survey is an annual process that began several years ago by the state of New Jersey in order to promote transparency with municipal governments, to make sure that we are providing information to the public and having several documents available, and that internally doing some best financial practices in order to ensure we're promoting good government. Failure to reach a certain threshold does impact your annual state aid. You do get deductions made if you don't hit certain thresholds. I am happy to report to the mayor and council and to the public tonight that we have exceeded the threshold required to achieve 100% of our state aid. We are in a good place. We continue to make changes in order to continue provide as much transparency in our government as possible. And we will continue to try and get a perfect score, which pretty difficult because they change the questions every year, but we're doing the best we can. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob. I also want to thank our CFO for his outstanding commitment to the borough and ensuring that we remain compliant. So thank you to both of you for your good work with this. Mayor, I just, under my liaison assignments quickly, just a reminder that the 55 KIP Center is currently doing the Festival of Trees and Wreaths through December 10th. On November 26th, they will have an open house from 11 to 3. Please stop in. Please support this extraordinary organization. And lastly, my former colleague, Councilman Naruki, said something before that I just think deserves to be reiterated, not just because I'm the liaison to the Sigma Free Committee, but something that I believe so very deeply as in everything that I do and believe. You are indeed correct. Hate has no home in Rutherford. It doesn't belong here. There's a sign at every entry point reminding people that everyone is welcome. And I just wanted to thank you for reiterating that, because that was a very powerful and profound reminder that I think we all need. Thank you.
Namaste. Anything else, Councilwoman? Listen, as we all lose our minds, at least we can laugh a little bit. All right, we're going to move along. Police, Councilman Malay.
Thank you, Mayor. Under Police, I make a motion to call for the New Jersey Civil Service Commission promotional list for captain, lieutenant, and sergeant. Motion.
Motion by Councilman Malay. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Council President. Any questions or comments by the council? Seeing none, or hearing none. May I have a roll call?
Councilman Goldsack?
Yes.
Councilman Leahy?
Yes.
Councilman Coakley?
Yes.
Councilman McGowan?
Yes.
Councilman Robertson? Councilman Guzman?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Public Works.
Thank you very much, Mayor. First up, I have resolution number 210, resolution to enter into the community development, resolution to enter into the community development block grant agreement for the Darwin Avenue tree planting project. Motion.
Motion. May I have a
Second.
second? Councilman McGowan, would you like him to say that 10 times real fast? All right. Any questions or comments by the council? Seeing none, may I have a roll call?
Councilman Goldsack?
Yes.
Councilman Leahy?
Yes.
Councilman Coakley?
Yes.
Councilman McGowan?
Yes.
Councilman Robertson? Councilman Guzman?
Yes. Thank you very much. I have nothing new to report. Thank you.
Thank you. Fire, Councilman Coakley.
Thank you, sir. I move to accept full membership of Frederick A. Liller into Union Truck and Bucket Company Number 1. Motion.
Motion by Councilman Coakley. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Malay. Any questions or comments by the council? Seeing none, may I have a roll call?
Councilman Goldsack?
Yes.
Councilman Leahy?
Yes.
Councilman Coakley?
Yes.
Councilman McGowan?
Yes.
Councilman Guzman?
Yes.
Thank you all. Make a motion to accept full membership of Robert Cartwright into Engine Company 4. Motion.
Motion by Councilman Coakley. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Guzman. Any questions or comments by the council? Hearing none, may I have a roll call?
Councilman Goldsack?
Yes.
Councilman Leahy?
Yes.
Councilman Coakley?
Yes.
Councilman McGowan?
Yes.
Councilman Guzman?
Yes.
Thank you all. I'd like to thank both men and their families for their service. As I have said from the jump, that no one does that job alone. Continuing, I'd like to move forward resolution number 220, authorization for the 2022 Fire Department uniform allowances. Make the motion.
Motion by Councilman Coakley. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Lay. Any questions or comments by the council? I have one. I've been doing this since 2013, unfortunately. I've never seen a better relationship with the fire department than you've done, so I appreciate that. May I have a roll call?
Thank
Councilman Goldsack?
Yes.
Councilman Leahy?
Yes.
Councilman Coakley?
Yes.
Councilman McGowan?
Yes.
Councilman Guzman?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Buildings, Grounds, Public Utilities, Councilman Robertson had to go to her son's playoff game, which I apologize she had to be here to miss that. Who's second? Council President.
Nothing to report on behalf of Councilwoman Beck Roberson.
Thank you. How about Recreation?
Nothing to report.
Definitely not getting a Ginsu knife set. Moving on to my reporting, I don't really have a lot to report. I have a couple appointments to make, but yeah, I mean, yeah, do I joke? Yes. Am I stressed? Yes. Has this council been put through the ringer? Yes. So forgive if we just make a few stupid jokes while we're doing this, but I appreciate everybody up here, appreciate their dedication. And I used to make a joke, like, what could possibly go wrong since I got elected? How am I doing? Appointments. Down you know, Tree Maintenance 1, in accordance with the rules and regulations of the State of New Jersey Civil Service Commission effective November 15, 2022. I'd ask for council consent.
Motion.
Motion by Council President. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Guzman. Any questions or comments by the council? Hearing none, I'd ask for consent or roll call, please.
Councilman Goldtag?
Yes.
Councilman Leahy?
Yes.
Councilman Coakley?
Yes.
Councilman McGowan? Yes. Councilman Guzman?
Yes.
Randolph County Alternate Crossing Guard in accordance with the rules and regulations, New Jersey Civil Service Commission. I'd ask for council consent.
Motion.
Motion by Council President. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Council McGowan. Any questions or comments by the council? Hearing none, may I have a roll call?
Councilman Goldtag?
Yes.
Councilman Leahy?
Yes.
Councilman Coakley?
Yes.
Councilman McGowan?
Yes.
Councilman Guzman?
Yes.
Thank you. Next up is the basketball seasonal staff. The list is attached. I'd ask for council consent.
Motion.
Motion by Council President. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Council McGowan. Any questions or comments by the council? Hearing none, may I have a roll call?
Councilman Goldtag?
Yes.
Councilman Leahy?
Yes.
Councilman Coakley?
Yes.
Councilman McGowan?
Yes.
Councilman Guzman?
Yes.
Now we're going to move on to ordinances. Councilman Leahy?
Thank you, Mayor. I have on first reading an ordinance to establish a handicap space on East Passaic Avenue. I'd like to ask Missy to read the ordinance by title only.
In order to amend and revise Chapter 126, Vehicles and Traffic of the Borough Code of the Borough of Rutherford.
Thank you. I make a motion to move the ordinance be passed on this first reading and advertised according to law.
Motion by Councilman Leahy. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by the Council President. Any questions or comments by the council? Seeing none, may I have a roll call?
Councilman Goldtag?
Yes.
Councilman Leahy?
Yes.
Councilman Coakley?
Yes.
Councilman McGowan?
Yes.
Councilman Guzman?
Yes.
Thank you. Councilman?
Thank you. Next, I have an ordinance amending the Police Department Table of Organization. I'd like to ask Missy to read the ordinance by title only.
In order to amend and revise Chapter 76, Police Department of the Borough Code of the Borough of Rutherford.
Motion by Council.
Thank you. I make a motion to move that the ordinance be passed on first reading and advertised according to law.
Motion by Councilman Leahy. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Coakley. Any questions or comments by the council? Hearing none, may I have a roll call?
Councilman Goldtag?
Yes.
Councilman Leahy?
Yes.
Councilman Coakley?
Yes.
Councilman McGowan?
Yes.
Councilman Guzman?
Yes.
Thanks. Next, I have an ordinance amending the borough vacation schedule to include the deputy police chief. I'd like to ask Missy to read the ordinance by title only.
In order to amend and revise Chapter 70, Personnel Policies and Practice of the Borough Code of the Borough of Rutherford.
Thank you. I make a motion to move the ordinance be passed on first reading and advertised according to law.
Motion by Councilman Leahy. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Guzman. Any questions or comments by the council? Hearing none, may I have a roll call?
Councilman Goldtag?
Yes.
Councilman Leahy?
Yes.
Councilman Coakley?
Yes.
Councilman McGowan?
Yes.
Councilman Guzman?
Yes.
Last but certainly not least, I have an ordinance amending the salary ordinance to include deputy police chief and a chief. I'd like to ask Missy to read the ordinance by title only.
In order to amend and supplement an ordinance entitled, an ordinance regulating the employment, tenure, and discharge of certain officers and employees of the Borough of Rutherford under the provisions of the Civil Service Act of New Jersey, number 3621-22, adopted on October 11, 2022.
Thank you. I make a motion to move the ordinance be passed on first reading and advertised according to law.
Motion by Councilman Leahy. May I have a second?
Second.
Second by Council President. Any questions or comments by the council? Hearing none, may I have a roll call?
Councilman Goldtag?
Yes.
Councilman Leahy?
Yes.
Councilman Coakley?
Yes.
Councilman McGowan?
Yes.
Councilman Guzman?
Yes.
That's it for me.
Thank you. Planning Board, Councilman Goldsack. Council President, I'm sorry.
That one was removed.
Then we're good.
Yes, we are.
Just checking. I thought we were already on second now. Oh, I'm sorry. On second read. Semantics.
Under my planning board, thank you, Mayor. I apologize for the confusion. Under my planning board liaison assignment, we have an ordinance related to off-street parking. I'd like to ask the clerk to read the ordinance by title only.
In order to amend and revise Chapter 131 zoning of the Borough Code of the Borough of Rutherford.
I'd like to make the motion that the ordinance be passed on second reading and advertised according to law.
Motion by Council President, may I have a second?
Second.
Second by Council Malay. Now going to open it up to the public for public comment on this subject matter and this subject matter only. Anybody wishing to speak, please come up to the microphone. Keep your comments to 5 minutes or less. Seeing none, I'll open up to the council. Hearing none. Roll call, please.
Councilman Goldtag?
Yes.
Councilman Leahy?
Yes.
Councilman Coakley?
Yes.
Councilman McGowan?
Yes.
Councilman Guzman?
Yes.
We're now going to go into closed session. I'd ask for a motion.
Motion?
Resolution first. I'm sorry.
Whereas the Open Public Meetings Act requires that a public body adopt a resolution at an open meeting before going into a closed session to discuss a matter which excludes the public as permitted under Section 7B. Now therefore be it resolved that the mayor and council will hold a closed meeting at 8:01 p.m. on November 14, 2022 in Borough Hall to discuss the following matter. Personnel matter, Finance Department.
Motion.
Second.
Second by Council McGowan. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Councilman Goldtag?
Yes.
Councilman Leahy?
Yes.
Councilman Coakley?
Councilman Coakley?
Yes.
Councilman McGowan?
Yes.
Councilman Guzman?
Yes.
Thank you. We'll now take a break to go into closed session. Thank you, everybody. We're back and open, starting at 8:14. I would ask for a motion.
Motion.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.